For my flooding event, I chose Hurricane Florence. Hurricane Florence was a hurricane that hit in September of 2018 as a Category 1 hurricane off the coast of Wilmington, and it struck during Atlantic hurricane season that runs from June to October. The cause of this flooding event was major precipitation that then went into the rivers and streams in the areas that caused large flooding and caused record floods in over 28 different areas. There was also over 30 inches of rain recorded in some areas, with Elizabethton topping out at 36 inches of rain recorded. So the magnitude of this event was it is classified as a 1,000-year flooding event, giving it a 0.1% probability in any given year that this event is going to happen. This is isolated largely around the Carolinas, with some effects being felt in Virginia and Georgia. Over 10 trillion gallons of water fell over these states during the period of the hurricane. And it also caused around 28 record flooding events, largely in the Waccamaw River, Cape Fear River, Lumber River, and the New River in Onslow County. So the societal and economic impacts that were felt was over 17 to $22 billion of damage recorded by FEMA, and 50 deaths were attributed to this hurricane, although there might have been more because some people are still considered missing. And the farms in North Carolina were devastated, with the hog farms having some of their waste ponds leaching into the rivers and water systems of these communities, which had to be cleaned up before any of the real effort to rebuild these communities could happen. This is also one of the costliest hurricanes ever to strike the North Carolina area as well as the United States. And so one of the major problems with this hurricane was that it came 2 years after Hurricane Matthew, which struck in 2016, which caused large flooding in the same areas, and also many of the communities were not done rebuilding from these previous hurricanes. So it breached many of the barriers that were put in place that were temporary or the ones that they were building. And this was an issue because there was nothing really in place to stop the flooding in some of these areas. So they just got devastated again. And from the reports that I have read most recently, most of these communities have recovered, although there is still some isolated cases, largely in southeast North Carolina, that have still seen areas where they are still rebuilding from the hurricanes. And then there are towns such as Seven Springs that were largely wiped off the map from flooding from this event. And some of the mitigation and adaptation strategies that some of these people have used in response to the flooding is that there have been many levees built on the side of the Cape Fear River and the Lumber River and some of these further east communities, especially after what we saw in Hurricane Matthew. Many of these people felt like this was necessary to keep their communities from being devastated again by a similar flooding event. And I would say North Carolina has done a better job in prepping for these flooding events now that they have seen two major flooding events in the past 20 years. I feel like there is a better plan in place, and there is a lot of information that you can find on some of the North Carolina websites about how to deal with flooding and what to do in the event of a hurricane. Here are the sources that I use for this PowerPoint.